Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be comparing the original Beauty Blender sponge with the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion sponge. I have been a huge fan of the original Beauty Blender sponge for years. Ever since I started working at Sephora, I've completely fallen in love with these sponges. They give such an airbrush finish to your makeup. They make everything blend so smoothly, so flawlessly. You can still get coverage with these, but it does give your skin such a blended, natural look, and it really helps with a more dewy complexion if that's the look you're going for. I absolutely love these sponges for blending out concealer underneath the eyes specifically, and for running over my makeup once it's finished to make sure everything looks flawless. Over the years, I have tried so many knockoffs or Beauty Blender dupes. You can find them at TJ Maxx, Ross, Target, Walmart. They're just about everywhere, and they retail themselves as being something that's just as good as a Beauty Blender, and a lot of the times they're like $2.99, $3, $5, but they're never anywhere near the price point of the Beauty Blender, which is $20. And while it's a very flattering price point, I have tried out so many of them and they do not even compare to the Beauty Blender. Here's an example right here. This is one I got at TJ Maxx for $2.99, and then this is the original Beauty Blender. They look like they're gonna be so similar, but I promise once you try to use this on your skin, this thing is so dense, it's rock hard, it doesn't do anything, it just bounces on your skin and it almost hurts with how intensely strong these are. They don't grow as they are submerged in water, they don't get bigger, they're not soft, and they basically do nothing. And after experimenting with so many fake knockoffs, I have decided that I just didn't think there's anything comparable to the Beauty Blender. I was like, I'm not gonna waste my $5, I'm just gonna save my money and stick with what works. But I've heard so many people talk about how amazing the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion sponges are. I've heard them here on YouTube, I've seen reviews online, everyone swears they're just as good. So I finally caved and decided to buy this and try it out. So I got a 2-pack of these for $10, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate and review these products for you. Okay, so here I have the Real Techniques sponges. These are called the Miracle Complexion sponges, and this is a 2-pack. I got this for $10. And these products claim to deliver high definition results, and it says that you can use it both dry or damp. I'm going to be using them damp today because I don't really see a point in using the Beauty Blender sponges dry, so we are going to dampen this and compare them side by side. So a little bit to know about these sponges. They kind of had some rhyme and reason to designing this shape here. It says that the flat edge is to contour around the eyes and the nose, then the sides are to blend large areas of the face, and then the tip is to cover imperfections. So I'm gonna go open this up and dampen one, and I will be back to show you guys the results. Okay, so I just dampened both of my sponges, and they're very comparable in size. The Real Techniques sponge might be a little bit bigger, but if you compare them this way, they are very similar in size. They both have that tapered edge down at the bottom there, and then they have a big flat side. The difference between the way that these shapes work is that Real Techniques markets that you use this part more for underneath the eyes, whereas with the Beauty Blender, they say to use this side. So that is kind of different how these are compared, but I think either way, these are both tools that you can use however you want. You can use any part of the sponge to do whatever it is that you feel like would work best for you. So both of these sponges, after they are moistened, are super, super soft. They both have a very quick bounce back. I think that my Beauty Blender is a little softer, a little bit less dense, whereas the Real Techniques is a little harder. It does feel a little bit more dense than the Beauty Blender. However, my Beauty Blender is very broken in. This is the sponge that I've been using for the past 6 months, whereas this one's brand new. So that may create a difference. But so far, they are actually very comparable in texture and feel. So my black Beauty Blender is dry and my pink one is moist. So I just wanted to give you guys a size comparison of how much bigger the Beauty Blender gets when it is damp. And then I have a comparison with the Real Techniques sponges as well. This one right here is dry and this one is damp. So it does get a little bit bigger. I do feel like the Beauty Blender gets bigger in size than the Real Techniques one. They both get bigger, but I think the Beauty Blender gets a little bigger than the Real Techniques. So I'm going to apply some concealer underneath my eyes, and I'm going to buff it away using the Beauty Blender sponge and the Real Techniques sponge, and we will compare the difference. Okay, so let's start off with my Beauty Blender, which I will be using on this side of my face. I'm going to apply a couple concealers, a pretty generous amount underneath my eyes. And the reason why I'm testing the Beauty Blender and the Real Technique sponges underneath my eyes for concealer is because this is my favorite place to use a sponge. For my foundation, I really enjoy using a foundation brush, and I will kind of buff everything in afterwards with a sponge. But the main area that I feel like I get the best results with the sponge is underneath my eyes. So now that I have my concealer applied, I'm going to buff everything in, and I'm very familiar with the Beauty Blender sponge, but I wanted to film this so you guys can see the difference side by side. The concealer blends in very, very quickly, very seamlessly. It has a very airbrushed look to it, and you get great coverage, but it doesn't look thick or cakey. Okay, so there are my results with the Beauty Blender sponge. It's very smooth. We have good coverage, but it doesn't look dry or crepey. So I'm just gonna do the same method. I'm applying my concealer underneath my eye. And then I'm gonna use the pointed tip of the sponge because that is the part that I like to use on the Beauty Blender. And it feels very similar patting onto my skin. It actually almost feels a little softer, which is weird because when I squeezed it, I felt like it was more dense. But buffing it in, it feels really, really soft. Okay, so everything blended in really quick, really seamless, just like I'm used to with my Beauty Blender. And there's the results that I got from my Real Technique sponge. You know what's weird? I almost feel like this side with my Real Technique sponge blended out quicker. Like it almost worked better. That's weird. Now, as far as buffing in my foundation goes, I really like using a foundation brush, but then finalizing everything with a final bounce. That way everything just looks really smooth. And I love using the Beauty Blender for that. But I actually think this would work really, really well because I like this flat side. I feel like it covers more surface area than the round side of the Beauty Blender does. And it makes sense that it's flat because your face doesn't exactly need a rounded tip like this. And I tend to like flat top foundation brushes better than round top foundation brushes. All right, I'm gonna finish up my makeup and I'll be back to give you guys my final thoughts in just a minute. Okay, so I finished up my makeup and this is the Beauty Blender side and the Real Technique side. I'm very happy with the way that my concealer blended out. I think that both sides look pretty even and equal. This is the way that I like my concealer to look. I like a lot of coverage, I like brightness, and I like it to look very nice and smooth. And I'm really happy with the way that both sides look. I feel that the Real Technique sponge did an amazing job. It could potentially, I think, even be better with how quick and smooth it applied. I'm very, very pleased with both, and I'm very excited to use the Real Technique sponge all over my face for foundation, just to compare the way that I think these two work together. I did use it to kind of even out my foundation once it was finished, and I thought that this worked very, very well. It smoothed everything out. It didn't take away my foundation or take away coverage, but it just gave me that nice airbrushed, flawless finish that I was looking for. I will never give up on my Beauty Blender sponge because I love him so much, even though it's $20. But when you compare the $20 price tag with the $5 price tag, I am so impressed with the Real Technique sponge. I think it is very, very comparable to the Beauty Blender. I could easily see this working just as well, if not better, on clients as well as using on yourself. And for the $5 price tag, even if it isn't quite as good as the Beauty Blender, I really don't think that you can complain. And I'm so excited about it. I really never thought I would find something that was nearly as good as the Real Technique sponge. And I'm just so excited to experiment with this and maybe save some money in the future. Okay guys, that's it for this demonstration. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've ever used a Beauty Blender, if you've ever used a Real Technique sponge, or if you've ever found a Beauty Blender dupe. I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will leave my social media links down in the description box below. I would love to have you guys subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!